Welcome to Chapter11Dockets.com. Chapter 11 Dockets offers the best way to search for documents filed in large Chapter 11 cases nationwide. This video will introduce you to researching using our system and offer you some best practices for doing the most efficient research possible. To begin with a few key stats on Chapter11Dockets.com, our database currently comprises approximately 2,000 of the largest Chapter 11 cases filed since electronic filing began, and that means that we cover approximately 3.1 million documents, which is every document filed in those cases. New cases are added as they are filed every day, with complete coverage of companies with at least $100 million of assets at the time of filing. All of the dockets in our database are updated at least 4 times every weekday and at least once every weekend day. And as we'll touch on later, we offer numerous ways to search for cases within our database and also to filter the documents that are filed within those cases. Now to talk about the database itself and running searches using our database. And the first thing to know is that there are 2 primary ways to search for cases and documents within our database. The first is to search for a specific case where there's one case that you're interested in. Perhaps you're just looking for documents filed in the Radio Shack case. Alternatively, you can search for multiple cases simultaneously. Maybe you're interested in all retail bankruptcies filed within the last year. So we'll start with walking through a specific case search, and to begin, some of the keys to running specific case searches successfully. The first is when searching for a case, you have 2 options, either to identify the case by case number or by case name. And know that when you're searching by case name, our database lists the name of the lead debtor company. In order to help you identify which company that might be, our database has a predictive text feature where as you begin typing a name into the case name field, it will populate and show you all of the cases in our database that contain that text. So that in that way helping you find the specific case that you're looking for. And the second thing to know about it is that we have our document filtering options, and you can set them at any point during your search. And on the next slide, we'll walk through specifically what those are. On this slide, you can see all of the document filtering options that are available to you when searching our database. And a couple things to highlight. First, you can search the text of the document description field. Worth noting that that doesn't include the full text of the underlying court filing itself. It's just the docket text description. And second, one of the most powerful ways to search our database, and one of the things that sets our research system aside from many of the others, is that we offer proprietary topical categories and types that allow you to search, for example, for motions to approve sales of assets, even if the term asset sale doesn't show up in the actual docket text of the document itself. Now we'll walk through the process of running a specific case search, and it's really a 3-step process. The first, you start from the home screen, which you'll find when you log in or whenever you click the new search link on our website. And from here, you're really identifying the case that's of interest to you. As noted previously, you can identify that either by name or by case number. You also have the option to set any document filters from this screen. If you don't set them here, you can always set them later. And if you do set them here, you can always change them later on to either add additional filters or remove some of the filters that you've previously set. In the second step of a specific case search, you'll find yourself at the docket sheet. And on this screen, you have a nicely formatted docket sheet on the right-hand side of the screen with some of the key information about the case at the top: where the case was filed, what the case number was, the filing date of the case, the debtor counsel, etc. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that you again have your document filtering options all available to you. If you've previously set some document filters, you'll find those pre-populated, and you can add or remove any filters to adjust to identify the documents that are relevant to you. The third and final step of a specific case search is to download any documents that you've identified that you want copies of the actual court filings themselves. And that's what you see on this screen. In order to download any documents, you just click the View link, which you find to the right-hand side of any docket description, and that will pop up this box showing you all of the documents that are associated with that docket entry. Worth noting that all of our documents are acquired directly from the federal courts themselves. So the documents that you will download through our system are identical to what you would find on the court's own docket, and all of the documents are formatted in exactly the same way as they exist in the court's own records. As noted, the other way to search our database is to run a search across multiple cases simultaneously. A couple keys to doing that. The first is that, as noted previously, our database covers over 2,000 cases and 3 million documents. So rarely will it be an efficient or effective strategy to search every case and every document in our database. Frequently, you'll simply get too many results to be able to go through them in a meaningful way. Therefore, we offer a lot of different ways to identify just the cases that are relevant to you, and we'll go through a list of those in just a moment. Also worth noting is that you have all of the same document filters available to you in multiple case searching that you did in specific case searching. And again, you can add, remove, adjust those filters at any point in the process. And the final thing to note is that your firm subscription includes unlimited searching. So you will never incur additional fees by running searches in our database, whether you run one search a month or 1,000. So really, if you limit your cases and you find that you've been overly aggressive in limiting those, and you have to go back and expand those case search criteria a little bit, you won't incur any additional fees in doing that. The only time you will incur additional fees beyond the firm subscription is when you actually download copies of pleadings themselves. To now walk through the process of running a multiple case search, you'll see that it's, again, a fairly simple process. The first step is, again, from the other tab of the home screen, which you'll find when you log in or whenever you click New Search. You'll have the option to set case criteria to identify just the cases that are relevant to you. Maybe that's cases filed in Delaware in the last year, or cases filed in the automotive industry. And from the screen, again, you have the option to set any document filters that may be relevant to you. Just quickly before we move on to the next step of the process, to look at this case search criteria that are available to you, and you'll find you have many different ways to identify cases that are meaningful. You can look at it from a court perspective, whether that's a specific jurisdiction, a federal circuit, or a specific judge that you want to look at. You also have different ways to identify companies that are of interest, whether that is the industry that the company is in, or different measurements of size, assets, revenues, number of employees. All of those are measured at the time of filing. Revenues is the revenues in the calendar year prior to filing. You also have different ways to identify case criteria. So when the case was filed, whether that case has been converted or dismissed, whether the case is still open or it's been closed. You can also look at the strategy, whether the case was filed as a prepackaged case or a pre-negotiated case. And you can look at the professionals involved. So we identify for every case a lead debtor counsel and a lead committee counsel to the extent that an unsecured creditors committee is appointed. So you can use that as a way to identify cases that are of interest. So step 2 of the multiple case search process is a little bit different than the specific case search, in that in this step you'll identify the cases that are of interest to you, and all of the companies that you will find listed meet your case search criteria that you selected initially. And to the right of the case name, you'll see a column showing the number of documents, and what that column shows you is the number of documents that meet your document filtering criteria. So if you haven't set any filters, that number will be the total number of documents that have been filed in the case. But if you've used document filters to limit that, that will show you just the number of documents that meet those filtering criteria. And at the top of that column, you will see that it either will say show cases with 0 documents or hide cases with 0 documents. And what that allows you to do is to hide cases which meet your case search criteria, but don't have any documents that meet your filtering criteria. And that's particularly useful when you're searching for something that's very narrow, so you will have a lot of cases where no relevant documents have been filed. That'll allow you to remove all of those so you can just see the cases listed that are meaningful to you in terms of having court filings that are meaningful to you. From this list, you'll select any cases that you're interested in seeing the actual court filings from by checking the box to the left of the company name, and you'll see that at the top left-hand side of the screen, you'll have a case list, and as you check the box next to cases, that list will populate. Once you've identified the cases that you're interested in, if you click the View Document List, that will take you to step 3, where you'll actually be able to see the court filings themselves that match your document filters. So step 3 of the multiple case search process is to look at the actual documents within those cases that you selected in the previous process that meet your document filtering criteria. And again, here you can adjust your document filters on the left-hand side of the screen. And as you do that, the list will update to show you the documents from the cases you've selected that meet your new document filter criteria. Now, you can also go back to the previous step and either add or remove additional cases by clicking the Revise Case Selection link on the. So the final step in multiple case searching is much the same as the final step in specific case searching, and that's to download any documents that are relevant to your research question and where you want to view the underlying court filing. And that works exactly the same way as it did previously. You click the View link, which is to the right-hand side of the docket description, and it will show you all of the documents associated with that entry, and you can select one or more of them to download to your computer and open the actual PDF itself. So that largely concludes our introduction to Chapter 11 dockets, and we'll wrap up by just emphasizing a few of the best practices that we've touched on earlier. The first, with respect to specific case searching, is to remember the predictive case name feature, which will help you identify the lead debtor name, which sometimes can be unexpected. But that will, as you enter a string of text, pop up the names in our database which match that string of text. And it can take just a second to pop up. So if you don't see it, just give it a moment and it will populate for you. The second, with respect to multiple case searching, is remember to use the case search criteria to focus on the most relevant cases and to research efficiently. We frequently hear people, even with respect to very narrow searches that they're looking for, they don't think there's going to be a lot of documents, that our database has many more documents than they expect. So rarely will you have a research question which is so narrow that you need to search our entire database. If you need to, you can, but remember that you're searching across 3 million documents, and that's going to be a relatively slow and inefficient process for the most part. And the final thing to highlight is the use of our document filters. When you're looking at cases which may have thousands or tens of thousands of docket entries, our document filtering can be really effective to allow you to quickly hone in on just the documents that are of interest to you, and also thinking about our document topic and type filters that in many ways are more powerful than simply using text searching of the docket entries, because it will find things where the docket text doesn't necessarily highlight specifically what that underlying document is. Thank you again for subscribing to Chapter 11 Dockets and for watching this video. If you have further questions now or as you start to use the system and do research, please feel free to reach out to us. You'll see our email address on the screen. It's customerservice@chapter11dockets.com. We staff that regularly, so whenever you send us an email, you can expect that we will respond to you pretty quickly with assistance to answer any questions that you may have.